Hey everybody, it's Saturday afternoon, and we had a very interesting experience this morning. It was like around 9:05 a.m. Eastern Standard Time in America, and we had some extremely rare in our area where we live. So we'll each tell our story. I was sitting here in the chair, and I was actually watching a few YouTube videos to get some news and everything. And my foot was on the floor, and I felt a vibration on my foot. And then I heard a loud noise coming from our fireplace. It sounded like wind coming in through our fireplace. I was like, okay. And I looked out the window, and I didn't see no trees moving. I was like, that's weird. And then I felt my chair shake. And I was like, oh my God, I think we had an earthquake. And so Kevin was taking a shower. He just got out of the shower. And I said, Kevin, I said, are you okay? I said, something's weird. I said, I think we had an earthquake. I said, you feel anything? And he said, yeah, I did feel something. And it felt like it only lasted maybe 10 seconds or something. But, it was just a loud noise. And, and I've only experienced an earthquake once in my life before. We lived about 35 miles from here before when I experienced it in 2003. And so I was about, 28 years old, I think. I think it happened in April 2003, something like that. We looked it up. I knew it was in 2003, but I didn't know it was in April. And so this makes the second time that I've really ever felt an earthquake in my whole life, and I'm 50 years old. So that tells you how extremely rare they are in this area. But I'm going to switch it over to Kevin and Alex, and I'm going to let them tell your story, and then we're going to show a map and see kind of what's going on here of all the different earthquakes. There's a website that shows all the different earthquakes. And I was going to show you something, too, on Google Maps. It's kind of interesting. So, all right. What did you experience this morning from the earthquake?
Well, oddly enough, I was thinking about going to near Knoxville where it happened to an Amish area. But I decided not to go now that the earthquake hit.
Yeah, it's about 140 miles up there from our house where it happened.
About 140
Yeah, for Mother's Day, we were actually thinking about going up that way. It's
so
strange.
It's weird.
Yeah.
So I got up, I made the bed up, folded my clothes, and I sit down on the bed as I was about to finish up my clothing, and the bed just shook really hard. And I thought you were doing laundry downstairs, or I thought maybe the air conditioner kicked on. I didn't know the temperature, and it's like 56 degrees here, so we wouldn't have an air conditioner on this time of year. Usually you would. In May, but we didn't have it on. It was 56 degrees outside, and I had no idea it was cool. So I thought maybe she's doing laundry or something, but the whole bed was vibrating. The next thing that I thought of would be possibly, we have aircraft. We're not far from an Air Force base, and they come over and they rumble the house too.
I thought it might have been that too, actually.
Helicopters fly really low. A couple 100 feet up from here, but I didn't hear a helicopter. So the only thing I could think of was an earthquake. And then I heard Amy saying that, did we just have an earthquake? And I said, I'm pretty sure we did.
Yeah. And
that was about it.
Right. And Alex, what was your experience this morning?
So it was around 9:04, I think, and I was asleep. I was basically asleep. I sleep till around 10, 11 o'clock, right? And first thing I hear is a knock on the door. I don't know why I heard a knock on the door. It sounded like somebody was knocking. And I asked him if I was there. He was there. Nobody answered. And then I heard some go. I heard like the house was shaking, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I was like, okay. And then I heard the knock again, and then my bed shook, and then it stopped. And I immediately run out the door up there, and I said, what happened? And I heard somebody talk. You actually were talking about earthquake. I said, yeah, did we just have an earthquake? And I said, yeah, it was an earthquake. I think we originally initially thought it was a sonic boom, but I was like, it's got to be an earthquake. But then when we saw it on the computer, it was in Knoxville. We realized that it was an earthquake. It was a pretty bad one. So.
Right. Yeah, it was outside of Knoxville. It's actually about, I think it's 14 miles from Maryville is where it happened. And Maryville's a college town in Tennessee. So I think we're around about 140 miles from where it happened, south of there. So we actually live north of Atlanta. So, and we watched it on the news when they were talking about it. And they said there were people that felt it as far south as Atlanta. Some people felt it in Virginia and felt it in Alabama, northern Alabama. And I'm sure it was southern Virginia they felt it. And then parts of North Carolina as well. So what was very interesting is that we saw on the news somebody lived close to where the epicenter was, that their back porch collapsed from the earthquake. So there was actually some damage to some homes, they said, where the earthquake happened. And it was like a 4.1, like some cracks in the, concrete and stuff like that. I mean, there wasn't like houses falling down or anything like that. It was just, there was still some damage though. So this is highly unusual. So the last earthquake that I experienced was actually the first one I recall that I felt. I'm sure we've had tiny ones and just didn't really feel them. But the main one I remember was in 2003, and the epicenter was in Fort Payne, Alabama. And I think it was around a 4.5 or so. It was just a little bit more than this one. And it happened like 5 o'clock, I think, in the morning, something like that. And I remember I fell asleep on the couch at my house that time. I was like 27, 28 years old. And, I was living by myself in my home and everything at the time. And I fell asleep on the couch with the light on. Excuse me. And so I felt the movement and I heard the loud noise. I thought it was a plane crashing in the yard or something. I was like, oh my God, is that a plane crash? And then I felt the shake. And then I saw the swaying back and forth in my pictures. I was like, oh, this is an earthquake. But my first thought was an airplane was crashing because the noise was so loud. Now, I didn't really look at my picture over here if it was swaying or not. But I was looking towards the fireplace because I was watching TV at the time with my coffee, and loud noise coming through the fireplace that sounded like wind. And so then I looked out the window and I noticed the trees wasn't moving. I was like, oh, well, that was the first thing that happened before I actually felt it. I heard the noise. And it was kind of like that the first time I experienced it in 2003. I heard the noise first, then I felt the movement, which is really strange, it's kind of weird that you would hear a noise first before you would feel it. That's the way I experienced it both times. But yeah, what I wanted to show you here on the TV, there's a website called earthquake.usgs.gov. And let me here. I've got on my big screen here on my TV here. So this shows all the earthquakes, all magnitudes in the United States for the last 30 days. And so, lo and behold, I think we're the biggest one in the last 30 days. And this is extremely rare for us. So, yeah, you could see like most of them are happening around Puerto Rico area because there's a fault line. You see that little red line there? There's a fault line. It actually goes right through Cuba. And that's a plate. Well, I should actually say a plate. Or I guess a fault line. A plate's the same thing for the...
fault line's kind of where it drops. A plate is where the...
Okay. Is that what it is? Okay. Well, it's got a red line, so that's a plate. So that's where most of them are happening. And they're small around Puerto Rico there, as you can see. And I think one of the deepest areas on the planet, they call it the abyss. I think there was a movie made about it years ago with Nick Nolte. I don't know if it's the same abyss or not, but I think it is. not far from Cayman Islands, around the Gulf of America. I think it's really deep. I think it's over 26,000 feet or something.
Yeah,
it's really, really, really deep, But yeah, and we don't have any volcanoes in our area. Now, we do have the Appalachian Mountains, but there are a couple of volcanoes, I think, in Mexico, and of course there's some out west. But there's no volcanoes on the eastern part of America. Now, there is an old volcano in Arkansas where the Diamond State Park is, but it's not active anymore. It actually made diamonds, the volcano did, I think. So, but it's not active or anything like that. It's probably the closest volcano to us, right? That's not active or any kind of volcano.
Yeah, unless you consider hot springs.
Yeah, the hot springs, yeah.
Arkansas too.
Yeah, so most all the volcanoes, the few that we have are out west or they're in Mexico or something like that. So, but yeah, looking in the last 30 days, just in America only, I mean, ours is the biggest so far. And I can even zoom out here and you can see California too. Now look at all the ones in California. Now you see the red there in the Pacific side. There's a plate there as well. And there's a fault line for sure in California there. And there's also a there's a San Andreas fault, and there's in California, and then there's a Madrid fault line that goes into Missouri and around Memphis, Tennessee, and all that below St. Louis. And you see there's small earthquakes there as well because there's a fault line there. But yeah, most of them are actually out west, but they actually have them in Alaska too. If you zoom in, you'll see a bunch in Alaska here because the plate actually goes up there. There's a plate there, and then you have Hawaii that has a few because of its volcanoes. It doesn't look like it's on a plate or anything like this. But yeah, I was like, if you're on this website, it'll tell you exactly when you click on it, like right here, it'll tell you exactly what it is. Like this one looked pretty big on here, and that's Virgin Islands. It's a 3.6, but ours is the biggest in the last 30 days in America, and it's a 4.1. Now that's concerning because this is extremely rare. So 2003 is the last one I remember that I could feel. I mean, like I said, we've had smaller ones that you can't really feel. But yeah, if you zoom in here, let me zoom in here real quick. And you could see there's a pattern. Hold on a second. I got to move my screen. Sorry about that. Okay. You could see here, there's a pattern. And you see like these little white dots here, like right here where my cursor is. There's one here in northwest Georgia. There's one here at the Tennessee line. And there's two circling the big one that happened this morning, one in Knoxville and one close to the Kentucky-Virginia line here. So this is where a plate looks like it is right here, because these are the Appalachian Mountains. They call it the Piedmont is what they call it. And we're only like 350 miles from the Madrid fault line, which is kind of spooky, because they're saying a big one's going to hit there again. There was a big one that hit in the 1800s that made the Mississippi River go backwards, which is crazy. So they're expecting it to happen again, but we're only 350 miles from that. But yeah, when you get on Google Maps here, this is kind of where it happened, right? There's Maryville right here. Let me see if I can move my cursor. Yeah, it's right here. That's Maryville. So it happened 14 miles south, the earthquake did. And so you could see here's where the mountains start here. Here's the Tennessee, North Carolina border here. And here's the Piedmont Mountains here. And Clemens Dome is actually the highest mountain in Tennessee. And then the highest mountain in the Appalachians is in North Carolina, but it's kind of over here. It's called Mount Mitchell. But where the earthquake happened, you could see this is a lighter color. And this is getting darker here. It's darker green. And it happened like round close to Chilliwack right here, close to that river. So, and it happened like right here right here on the line. So basically, these are higher mountains over here. And then over here is a plateau. So like a lot of part of Tennessee, you're high up, but you're driving on a plateau. So this is kind of more of the plateau area over here. And so it kind of happened on the line here. So that must have been some kind of fault line is what I'm guessing. You know, yeah, like Chattanooga is, you would think when you're crossing over into Chattanooga from Georgia, you would think, wow, this is really high up. You know, we're really high up, you know, when you're down in Chattanooga, but you're not. It's like a valley down there, and it's only 200, I think it's only what, Kevin, 200 feet above sea level? Yeah, and then right next to it, you've got the Ruby Falls on the left coming from Georgia, and that tall mountain over there, what do they call that, Kevin? Is
Lookout Mountain.
Lookout Mountain, yeah, Lookout Mountain. So when you get on top of Lookout Mountain, you can look down in the valley of Chattanooga, you know, and just remember Chattanooga is 200 feet above sea level, so it could easily be flooded, you know, with 200 feet above sea level. So, but this is rare. This is extremely rare. So I hope a big one's not about to come. I don't know. I mean, really, our records don't really go that far back for earthquakes. They really don't. I mean, our country is fairly new compared to other countries in the world. I mean, we're about to hit our 250 anniversary, Kevin, next 250 next year, because, you know, they were colonies before 1776, but our main year is celebrating next year for 250 years. So we're fairly a new country compared to other countries in the world, you know. I think the oldest city is St. Augustine. I've been there, you know, so pretty much everything's relatively new compared to other countries, you know. So we really don't have that many records here. We really don't. So there may be something we just don't know about that could have happened in the Appalachians in the past. I don't know, but this is pretty scary because the Appalachian people, you know, and I consider us Appalachian people too. I kind of have that southern accent, you know, my husband does too, and so does my son. You know, we're Appalachian people. This is concerning because, you know, Asheville, North Carolina wasn't that far from us, and they had that hurricane come through and just it just devastated the place, just totally devastated it. And you don't think about a hurricane coming in the mountains, you know, and destroying a place, but it did. It really destroyed it. So we're not that far from Nashville. We're about 4 or 5 hours, Kevin, from Asheville, North Carolina?
Asheville, yeah, about 170 miles.
Just 170?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought it was further than that.
No, it's not further than that.
I guess it feels like it is because you're going a lot of 2-lane roads, right? Yeah, going up the mountain, it just feels like it's further, you know. But so I wanted to share that with you guys. So it was a pretty weird experience for us. It didn't last that long. It's just amazing how something can change in the matter of seconds. You know, it's kind of scary, you know. I mean, because evidently there were a few things destroyed in that area. And I heard that their earthquake in Tennessee lasted a minute. But it felt like it only lasted 10 seconds here. I don't know exactly how it travels in waves and stuff like that. But the sound is what gets me. It's like, that's what I hear first is the sound. Then I feel it. And both times it was like that. So, but yeah, just very weird. I don't know of any volcanoes in our area or anything like that. So this is very unusual. So I don't know. We'll just have to wait and see. Only time will tell if anything big will happen or not, but yeah, they have been smaller earthquakes in the area, you know, in Tennessee, just about anywhere, like in the 2s or the 1s, but you don't feel those really, you just don't. But this one, we felt it. So, yeah, this is my second earthquake that I've felt in my whole life of 50 years. So, all right, folks, well, y'all stay safe out there. We just wanted to share our very unique experience. We'll talk to y'all later. Take care.